1, 2. Just jamming. Just jamming. Is it all working out there in video land? Can you hear things? This? That? I'll have to wait 10 minutes for your reply. The beer is Dead Pony Club from Brewdog. It's alright, I like the label. I'm mostly a sucker for labels, I have to say. Cool, yeah, alright, that's enough of that, or I might come back to it later. I don't know, we'll see how we go as we do. That's what we do. Thanks for being here. Welcome. This is live stream number 5. I'm on to number 5 now. I've done this before. As you can tell, we actually kicked off and it worked, which is remarkable in of itself. So, you know, I'm kind of overwhelmed by that. I came here at like 6 o'clock and started setting up, and then I was twiddling my thumbs for half an hour going, oh, I think it works. Fantastic. So if you're new here, then you're very, very welcome. We come together every now and again, usually the Sunday after I stick out my Molten Music Monthly video news thingy. We get together on the Sunday following that and have a chat about it, or about anything, or make some music like I did. That kind of thing. There could be all sorts of things we can talk about. You're very welcome to bring your questions. If you have, you know, questions that you feel I'm in a good position to answer, or just want to trip me up on something technical, that's always nice. All my intention is that I'm here to talk about music technology. I'm here to help if I'm helpful to you, or I'm here just to chat about stuff and knock stuff around. Or failing all of that, I'll just fiddle with some knobs over here and you can come and go as you please. You know, I'm easy. There's no set agenda. So welcome one and all. I'll try to respond to the chat. So if you want to ask questions, just throw it into there, and I'll every now and again go, ooh, and then we'll talk about it. That would be great. So yes, so I'm Robin Vincent. This is Molten Music Technology, the live stream. Let's get on with it. Oh, thanks, Matthew. That is awesome. And also, that was the Magneto I was playing with there. Now, you commented the other day that you wondered whether I'd had any chance to play with it. And really, much more than that, I haven't. Because I read a review. There's a few reviews have come out recently, and it makes me go, oh, right, so there's like a whole load of stuff in here. I mean, I bought it, I think, like a lot of people bought the Magneto, because it just looks flipping cool. And you can imagine that it's awesome. And when you plug it in and put a few things with it, you go, oh, yeah, this is awesome. But then, without spending a lot more time with it, that's about as far as you get. You speed stuff up and you slow stuff down, and 4 things comes out. But, you know, in the review, they were talking about these massively long delays. It's like, oh, wow, really? How do I get that to work? I've just got it to go bang, 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 and then bang, 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 or ding, 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 ding. That's about it. And crackle and spring reverb and stuff. I can work out those knobs, but there's a ton of more stuff in there that I really need to get into because I think it's interesting. And it's kind of my clouds replacement, because I threw clouds out because I couldn't get the hang of that. And I was determined to buy something posh to replace it, which would just be awesome. And the Magneto definitely seemed, on paper, to fit that bill. It's just that I haven't yet given it the time to really get underneath its skin and work out why it's awesome. I know that it is. I know that it is. I just don't know why yet. So that'll be fun. I hope to do that soon. But I have other things in the way. I have other things that, yeah, reviews coming up, if you like. The way my schedule is at the moment, I want to very much do a review on the Strymon AA1, which is this little pedal router over here. What it does is that you route signal out from your Eurorack through a bunch of guitar pedals and back in. And the reason that's important is because it changes the level. It steps it up or down to the pedals and down and up back into Eurorack. So you don't get any problems with distortion or mismatched signals, that kind of thing. It really smooths all that out and makes it very, very easy. And it's a dream, and it deserves a decent demo, and I'm going to do that. So I want to do that very soon. But I'm just waiting on somebody sending me a decent distortion pedal, because I don't have any. I sold all of my guitar pedals in order to pay for this stuff. And so I ended up having to find some like this. I bought a couple of really cheapo TC Electronics / Behringer pedals just to try it out. And also because, you know, I play guitar and stuff. I play guitar in church from time to time, and you always need a delay pedal. It's just what you need. So I do have a couple of cheap those, but I want to get some decent overdrive distortion pedals from somebody somewhere so that I can show bass lines and things going through, that kind of thing, and why that's useful and why that's helpful. So that's one thing I've got that I want to do as soon as I've got the pedals. The other thing I want to do is the HiHat mod, the Squarp Instruments HiHat mod, the modular brain, because within there somewhere is an immense bunch of sort of sequencing and modulation stuff that, again, I haven't really seen online anyone do it justice. I know Cuckoo has done a video on it, which was good, but he skipped over a whole load of stuff, pages and pages of stuff he skipped over. And I'm thinking that really needs to be tied down, because they were nice enough to lend this to me, you know. They said, would you like one? I go, yeah, okay. And I've used it for bits and pieces. I've used it for interfacing to computer and Eurorack. But there's, again, a lot more in there that I could be doing with it. And I want to get to the bottom of it because it has some particularly cool features that I'd like to point out and review. So that is also on my list of things to do in the modular world of things. And that's before I've even started down the DIY, which we'll get to in a bit. I'll leave talking about that for a little while, or I might just talk about it now. No, I'll leave it. No, I'll do it now. No, I'll leave it. What I will do is I'll have a quick look at the comments and see where we are. Because here we are, look, 12 minutes in, and I haven't even answered a question. So let's go back to the beginning. What were people saying? Hello, hello. Yeah, it is. Here we are. The beer, I did the beer, so I have answered a question. Thank you for that. Hello. Yeah, an 808 beer, that would be nice. Better than flipping trainers, eh? I don't know sometimes. Sometimes manufacturers, I mean, huge manufacturers who own tons of factories and stuff, how is it that they're not producing new and wondrous things all the time? Actually, that was interesting because Sequential, Dave Smith Instruments has just got the Sequential name back, which is awesome. Sequential was, of course, the name of the company that created the Prophet 5. That's Dave Smith's company. Sequential Circuits built the Prophet 5 and the Pro 1 and other such synthesizers. But it was the Prophet 5 that, for me, was the dream synthesizer. When I was a kid, it was a Prophet 5. Then I went, some reason, I went down the road to Fairlight. I seemed to be all about sampling. I don't know why that was, but anyway. But it was the Prophet 5 before I discovered the Fairlight was the thing that I wanted more than anything in the world. And now that Dave Smith has that name back, why don't they make it again? I mean, Behringer are about to come out with a Pro 1 clone. Why doesn't Sequential now come out with a Pro 1? Why don't they do that? Why don't they? I don't know. It's interesting because the Prophet X that they've released recently, which I don't have a whole lot of time for, to be honest. But then, as I was reading more about Dave Smith's history and more about the whole path of sequential circuits and the things that he's done since, it actually makes a lot more sense. It's not really my bag. I mean, it's a synthesizer, an analog synthesizer that combines with a whole bunch of sample stuff, a whole bunch of digital stuff, and you layer it all up and make these amazingly huge sounds. It's the sort of thing that big keyboard players want to have on the big stage, one imagines, which is not really my cup of tea, but it absolutely is in keeping with the sort of thing that Dave Smith does. I mean, he invented the software synthesizer, pretty much. He invented the wavetable that sat into the Creative Labs Sound Blaster All-32 and All-64. I mean, that's immense. I mean, everybody had that at one time, and he's been groundbreaking in those sorts of digital technologies. I wasn't really aware of that. I just made assumptions about it all being analog and all being, old-time groovy and traditional. And it's not the case. He's very much a cutting-edge kind of guy. And so in that environment, the Prophet X sits in that rather nicely. More so than I thought. I thought he was out of his mind, but no, it's actually his bag, man. So fair play, fair play. But yes, Dave, if you're out there, I'd like you to do the Pro 1 again. Do I know why? No, not really. It's just we like vintage stuff. And no one's doing it. It's only Behringer who keeps reissuing stuff. Why don't these other companies? You know, Yamaha, Roland, Korg. Now, yeah, okay. So they're a bit of a different story. But I digress. Anyway, I was meant answer questions. Answer questions. Da, da, da. The tapping was the 2 HP hat. Something which I find both really, really dull and every now and again inspiring. But that's a hi-hat, isn't it? That's what it does. It doesn't do much more than that. Da, da, da. Let the music go in the background. I'll come back to the music because I don't want it to be a distraction or a problem or a cutting in and out, that kind of thing. I'll come back to it. That's cool. Well, yeah, I mean, if you want me to produce a whole bunch of music for you, Link Le Montagu, let's go with that. Then just get in touch and, you know, and I'll send you my enormous fees. No, not really. But anybody out there, actually, you know, this is a serious point, I suppose. We're all creators, are we? I try to be. People creating stuff. And, you know, if you like the music that I make or you're interested in collaborating on something or want me to do something, then do feel free to get in touch. I mean, you know, the worst that could happen is that I say, no, not on your Nelly. But more than likely, I'll probably go, sure, I'll give it a go. Because I'm kind of like that. I like to give things a go in that space of zero time that I have. Because I find that in zero time, I can just squeeze in anything I like, which is awesome. So if you take it as read that I have no time at all in which to do something, then I will just fit it in. It's amazing how that works. Anyway. Oh. Da, ba, da. How's the audio PC business going? Thank you for that question. Well, of course, I was taught when I used to work at Turnkey, the music shop, that in any negotiation with any firm and any conversation with any competitor or other manufacturer, when they ask the question, so how's business going? The answer is always, oh, it's flipping amazing. It's fantastic. We're raking it in. Couldn't be better. Oh, I'm just working every hour because, you know, just to fulfill the amount of orders that we get. It's phenomenal. Fantastic. How about you? That's the sort of conversation you're supposed to have. The reality is that the audio PC business is kind of in decline, I would say. It's not, I mean, it's a double-edged thing because the reason that I'm able to do as many videos as I do is simply because the building PC business is not as overwhelming and time-consuming as it once was. So generally speaking, my sense on the vibe as far as computers go is that mostly these days when people buy a computer, it just kind of works, which didn't used to be the case at all. But these days that's more common, and also people are holding on to their computers longer, I think, so I don't see the need to upgrade necessarily. So yeah, the audio PC business is slow. What can I tell you? It's still there. I'm still doing it. And if anybody out there needs a computer for studio use, for DAW, for music making, or just for your personal pleasure, then do get in touch. And I can do that for you with a very personal touch. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I know. Clouds, whenever clouds comes up, I just know. I know that possibly if I'd spent another lifetime with it, I would have got something more than a sort of a cloud out of it. I suppose it's called clouds. But I just couldn't be doing with it. I couldn't. I'm sure there's 1,000 ways you can get awesomeness out of it, but I didn't and I can't, and I'm not interested in doing so. Life's too short, man, you know? I've only just learned how to use an envelope, for heaven's sake. Oh, Loop Pop. He's annoyingly good, isn't he? If there's somebody out there who's making good review videos. I mean, yeah, we've got our normal people like DivKid and Marlon Melodies and all these other people, sure, but Luke Pop, who I don't know anything more by but his name Luke Pop, and the fact that he has that timeline down the left hand side, which is slightly genius, slightly annoying, but also slightly genius. He does a good job. I mean, he does quite a light job. I don't think he goes into masses of depth, but the way he presents the information and the, you know, his obviously he's not doing it to camera, he's doing it with his hands, that side of things. But I think that comes across really well. I enjoy his videos. There's a lot of you know, good information and good stuff in there. I mean, whenever I see a new YouTuber out there give it out, and he's probably not new, he's probably been out there 1,000 years longer than I have, but the new one that I come across, so new to me, I do find it interesting to see where I still fit in this world of YouTubing, because as I often say, it gets a little bit old, I suppose, me say I'm no expert at this kind of thing, and I'm not, and I think that's still important. I think that the road that I travel, the way that I approach this, in trying to unpack things to the most basic level possible, still very much has its place. Because I mean, like I say, with Cucko's video on the Hermod, he skipped over a whole load of things, and I think it's very difficult to do videos on some modules to enough depth without them running into a long period of time, and most people are afraid of doing long form videos. I'm not. I'll do it for an hour, 2 hours. It's all right. I don't mind that. I'm not trying to capture every single view. I'm not trying to hit a sweet spot of length of time on a video. What I'd want to do, what I'm trying to do, attempting to do, is to open up a product as far as I can for a number of reasons. First reason is because I want to learn it. In the first instance, I want to learn how it works. And I find that I learn best when I'm explaining it to somebody else. So if I have to tell somebody how to use something, that's when I really learn how to use something. And so it's kind of it's a two-way thing. So I get a lot out of explaining stuff in depth to a very basic level. It really, really helps me. And so that seems to be a perfect symbiotic relationship, you know. And why not make a video of that while I'm doing it and attempt to articulate what's going on? Because so often, I mean, you don't see this in the videos obviously because I edit it all down, but often I hit a point where I have no idea what I'm doing, and then I spend the next 3 hours trying to work that out and then come back and restart filming again, you know. And that's how I learn. That's how I learn, I think, because, you know, left to my own devices, I just gradually sit further and further into my chair until I'm asleep. That's about it. So I need the pressure of producing a video, or that, you know, the pressure from Patreon of people throwing dollars at me to produce videos. That kind of thing really helped me learn new stuff, increase my creativity, and produce videos. You know, that works for everybody, I think. Anyway. Gamish chair. My chair? I don't know. It looks like a really posh studio chair. I bought it because of my back, and when I first got it, it really hurt my back. I don't understand how that works, but I think I've got the measure of it now. No, it has no label on it. I think I probably Googled office lumbar back support chair and went with what I found. Will I be reviewing the Aeolian Meditation VST? Aeolian as opposed to Aeolina, I called it. Stupid. Will I be reviewing it? I have no immediate plans to. It's, you know, I have to pick and choose a little bit because of the time, space, and interface and stuff. You know, there's only so much I can fit in. So I wasn't planning to do a review. Software reviews of instruments and stuff are difficult. Hardware reviews are far easier to work up. Not quite sure what to talk about with software reviews sometimes. Interesting. And also, I suppose some of that is because I'm not using software as much as I used to. I'm using hardware more often, and so I'm more likely to discover how something works. But then all I've got to do is actually make a decision to review something, and then I'll spend the time reviewing it. I mean, that's actually what happens. So what am I talking about? I don't know. Maybe I'll pencil it in. I'll stick it on my list. I've got an enormous list. I've got, I mean, there's things people have given me 2 years ago that I still haven't downloaded and, you know, to review. But I mean, I purposely do that. I don't like to take software from people then not, you know, do the review of it that they asked me to. I'd rather, you know, not download it, not have it, so that I don't have that obligation, if you see what I mean. It's different when somebody sends you a piece of hardware. Although, as I say, they sent me the HiHat and they sent me the AA1, and I still haven't quite gotten around to it. But we're only talking about a few months. A few months, that's fine, isn't it? A few months. DIY, yeah, we'll come to that in a minute, because I've got a whole bunch of modules over here in kits I just wanted to dangle in front of the camera just to show you what I have. I'll do that in a bit. Do that in a bit. Hey Johnny, how you doing? Prophet 5 was the only synth you actually really liked. Yeah, there really was something about it. I remember seeing one in a cabinet in Turnkey back in 80, 90 something. Yeah, before I worked there, just having a look, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing I ever saw. And I remember the first VST plugin version and how disappointing that was. I mean, I'm sure it sounded authentic. It just was not the experience I was expecting. I was expecting these, you know, big paddy chords and synthiness and the knobs and stuff. I mean, the quality of those knobs was always just a fantastic thing. So yeah, the Prophet 5, man, that was the fella. That was definitely the fella. I don't know why. I mean, I went all this whole trip down Yamaha DX and stuff. I mean, I had a DX100. Or my dad bought a DX100, which I then stole. And that took me down a different route. I kind of, because I guess if we're talking mid to late 80s, then synthesizers were changing. Digital stuff was coming in. And, you know, I started to desire things like the Korg M1. That seemed to be, oh, I must have one of those. That would be fantastic. You know, completely blank, no buttons at all. Oh, no, I don't want buttons. No. So, yeah. Oh, don't do that. Sorry, I just skipped up. I didn't mean to skip up. Yeah, Roland need to do a Juno 60 reissue. Yeah, something. Something that isn't ACB. I need to do something that isn't that. Or maybe they don't. I mean, maybe they're wedded to their idea of moving forward into software with the Roland Cloud. Yeah, that whole thing ties together so beautifully that maybe that's what they're doing. But at the same time, they did those modular. They did the new System 500 fellas, although that was Maleko really who did those under license from Roland. I don't know. I kind of feel that Roland are skirting around the edges of awesomeness. You know, they do a lot of great stuff, but it's not exactly, it's not feeding the synthesizer community monster. I don't know that it is. It is a bit, of course it is a bit, and I'm sure they're massively successful, all their boutique stuff. But it's just feel that it's just not quite there. You know what I mean? Surface mount is easier than you might think it is. Oh, no, it isn't. Maybe. I keep coming across it, people doing surface mount. So it will happen. It will happen. I've got I've got half a dozen modules to get out of the way first, and then I will start to consider surface mount, I think. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll be looking forward to that video in 6 months' time. Now, the likelihood of me making making a series on making music in Linux is about as likely as me doing a series on making music on iOS. And by that I mean not very likely at all. I just don't have the room. You know, I mean, I made a conscious decision a few years ago when stepping into the Surface Pro, because I really thought it was an opportunity to talk about something that had an impact in the reality of your studio. You know, iPads and iOS and iPhones, all that sort of stuff is fair enough, and they make beeps and they do their noises and they do their thing and you can integrate them, but they were not having an impact on your day-to-day music making. I didn't believe. You know, they were a different thing, a separate thing, a fun thing, a thing that people who had loads of money had because they had a couple of iPads all doing this sort of thing. And Where am I going with this? Yeah, so the reason behind jumping onto the Surface train is that I thought, well, this is a place where real software works. And that's interesting. And I was interested in the touch interface and all that kind of thing. So that had added extras to it and creative possibilities that you didn't find in something else. Now, when you look at Linux, I mean, where are we now? I mean, 15, 16 years ago, we thought about doing a Carillon computer, an audio computer running Rose Garden or Ardor or something of that nature to provide a Linux-based recording studio, recording system. The idea being that you wouldn't have any of those issues of viruses or messing about a background processor that you get with Windows or Mac OS. It would be a purely audio-based computer. But no one would ever want it. No one would ever buy it. That's a problem. Because Linux is for people who already know what they're doing. It's not for idiots. I mean, I also remember trying to do, laptops for friends or for friends' parents, that just had Linux on it, that were running Linux Mint or something like that. Something very simple with OpenOffice. And that's actually all they need. They need Chrome and they need OpenOffice and they're off. But no, that never really panned out because people are just more familiar with Windows. So music making on Linux, simple answer, no. No, I don't think I'll have the time for that. It means learning a whole load of other stuff. No. No. Do we think the Pro 1 from Behringer will be as good as the original? Yeah, probably. Because no one can remember what the original sounds like, I don't suppose. Even Andrew on here, you said yours is broken. Oh. So, yeah, I mean, of course it will sound as good because it's using the same circuitry. It's using the circuit design. It's using all of those plans and all those components and putting them together. So, of course, it's going to sound extremely similar. It may have more wobbly knobs. It may not be in such a good case. The ergonomics of it may be too small to play with. There will be, I guess, compromises, but probably not in the circuit design and therefore probably not in the sound so much. So I bet it will sound great. I bet it will. Oh, the string theory DIY kit. Yeah, interesting. I bought a string theory, the actual module. I thought that was interesting and I just sort of punted on it. Haven't used it that much because I don't have a whole lot of MIDI in my rack. I do via the HiHat, and that's another thing I want to look out for a little bit. And it's pretty good. It's not quite as stunning as I'd hoped. I think I was probably hoping for something a bit paddier, a bit more luxurious perhaps. But it's pretty true to whatever it is it's based on. What was it based on? The Selena, that's right, the Selena strings. Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. I just don't have, it's sort of sitting in my rack, not really plugged into anything, so I don't really have anything to send it through. So it's a little bit not quite fitting or finding its space at the moment. But sure, I mean, it's a great little thing and very good value. I don't like the front plate very much. They could have just jazzed it up a little bit and charged me a couple of extra dollars, but there we go. So yeah. So that's my quick review of the String 3. Sounds all right, yeah, sounds all right. That's about it. Is FL Studio Mobile on Android any good? As far as I understand, FL Studio Mobile is the same on any platform. And FL Studio Mobile isn't bad. I'm going to be doing a bit on that when I get into the Surface Go, which is here. Is that it? Yeah. Oh, Surface Go. One of the first video I'm going to be doing is running Windows 10 S store apps on the Surface Go. And the only one that there is really for music making is FL Studio Mobile. So I'll be doing a whole load of stuff on that. And my understanding of it running on Android is that it runs exactly the same. There are different flavors of Android, of course, and different quality in the hardware, which is where it always gets more difficult than it is on iOS because there's so much variation. But my understanding is it works great. I guess it depends on the power of your Android device. What about the Roland Boutique series? Any thoughts? Did I answer that? Yeah, I kind of did. I think the Roland Boutique stuff is great. It keeps disappearing, as in sometimes I just never find it in stock. I had one. I had the A01. I had it because I liked the sequencer, and I kind of did, but then I didn't. I didn't really like the sounds. I had a, it had an interesting sound, kinda, but it. No, not really. It didn't work for me. And then I got the little keyboard, and that was rubbish. I mean, for heaven's sake, Roland, you've just produced the boutique version. Boutique, mind, it's called a boutique version of a famous synthesizer, and you stick on these flippin' rubbish plastic crappy keys. I mean, it's the worst keyboard I've ever played, ever. It's just, it's worse than a Bontempi. It's just a terrible thing. I mean, it's great that it flips up. That's awesome. And it costs 100 quid. That's fabulous. No, it's not. It's a terrible keyboard. What an awful thing for them to have done. So other, perhaps, than the keyboard, then the boutique range, yeah, is great. But I've not found one that's really appealed to me that I want to get. I feel somehow shortchanged by it. I don't know what I mean by that. I mean, it's like a Jupiter 8. I'd love to have a Jupiter 8, but I want to have a Jupiter 8. I don't want to have a little box because they are small. They're ridiculously small. Very, very small boxes. Surprisingly small. And, I don't think that appeals to me. Perhaps the SH1A is the SH01, whatever it's called. The SH1011 one. That is probably the grooviest because of the size fits the sort of controls that it's got on it. So that's quite interesting. And I did play with an SH101 back in the day. I borrowed one off a mate for a couple of months. And that was great. I enjoyed that tremendously. So, yeah, I mean, I can see that Roland have a plan. Their plan is software based, and that's fine. But as I said, I think it could be so much more if they wanted it to be. But maybe we, sitting here in the community, sitting here as thinking about these things aspirationally, maybe there just isn't the market to support the creation of big, huge, fat keyboards. So when I sit down with my modular synth, do I have a goal in mind musically? I have had. I have had once or twice, I think. I did a couple of videos on trying to make a track, a piece of music on Eurorack, which was interesting and fascinating. And I sat down purposely to make music. But that is about the only time I've done that. The rest of the time, I just start plugging stuff in. I mean, like this here. I just plugged it in this evening. I didn't have a plan. I mean, I knew that I wanted to route some things through the Magneto to make a bit of a thing. I just turn the hat off. I turn the hat off for a second. What is going on there? I mean, all I've got is the STO. That's got the edge cutter going into it. I mean, actually, I built a part of this patch earlier in the week, and then when I turned it on today, as what always happens, it's completely different to how it was when I left it, because things like the Variegate 4 Plus, they don't save their settings when you turn things off, and I can never remember to save. So it always turns on differently. Excuse me. And in this situation, it's turned on very slow. So this was a much faster sequence. And I'm using the edge cutter is being triggered from something over here. Being triggered from the Variegate, and that's now triggering really slowly. But it's making this interesting thing. And honestly, making this piece of whatever it is was just coming up from, oh, that sounds interesting. What happens if I plug a modulator into the filter? Put it through the filter. I'll try that out. I'll fiddle with the Magneto a bit like I know what I'm doing, which I don't. Let's see whether I can make that any different. And then I'll stick a kick drum in there. I think, oh, that sounds nice. Then I'll get the Bassimilus involved and start messing with that, which is What's that going through? Oh yeah, I then stuck it through the Holovox filter. Because I thought that might be fun. Because sometimes I try out the Holovox and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't seem to make any contribution whatsoever. And other times, like this time, it's flipping amazing. So yeah, I very, very rarely sit down at the Modular in order to make a piece of music. I sit down at the Modular in order to play with sound. So I start with an oscillator and I'll probably throw in a bit of a random sequence because I haven't yet found a satisfactory sequencer, a sequencer that I like to use all the time. So I tend to rely on the variegate because I can create sort of random-ish patterns with it. Because it's actually very hard to create accurate patterns with it. It has, you know, no accurate pitching, or maybe it does, I don't know, but I can't find it. So I can't make the slider into a particular note. It's just somewhere within the region of, you tend to find. So you just throw a few switches around and that sort of starts making a sound. And then you think, well, how can I affect this sound? How can I make it sound interesting? So I usually modulate something depending on where the noise is coming from. And I really do start from there and just see what happens. It's like, I mean, I equate it most easily to sitting down with a guitar. I mean, when I sit down with a guitar, it reaches and grabs one. God, that would have been cool, wouldn't it? And I just sit down with the car and you just sort of start playing a couple of things, a bit of this, something you know, something you don't, and just see where it goes. I very much approach Modular in the same way. Yeah. So yeah, no plan. No plan. Although, I mean, that's something that I do want to do relatively soon, is that I want to experiment with writing another piece of music. I want to, the plan is, this is kind of tied into using the HiHat, because the HiHat is a very, I mean, in essence, the HiHat is a MIDI sequencer. It's very much MIDI based. It's not, although it kicks out CV and gate, the thinking behind it, the workflow is MIDI. So you can sequence a whole load of stuff really easily using a keyboard, and it's that it's particularly good at. Trying to do it with the data knob is a faff and a right pain. But putting stuff in with a keyboard, fantastic. Using the mod wheel to create all sorts of modulation, which you can then map to CV all over the place, is fantastic. Those are really great features of the HiHat. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. So I have coming up in my head somewhere is this idea to create a piece of synth pop, if you like, to write a pop tune, a synth pop tune, a la 1980 something or other. Well, however, to write a synth pop tune on my Modular, just to see how that goes. So write a bit of a bass line and then a melody line and a lick in the middle and something goes and that kind of thing. So I want to sit down intentionally and write a pop song. Let's call it modular pop. I think so. That's a genre I've just invented. There you go. So that's very much like what I intend and want to do. But that is not my normal experience of Modular. It's just playing, man. Just sit down and play with it. It's an interesting thing. I would never do that with a piece of software. Never. I'm always... No, I mean, I say that. I mean, sometimes it's nice to plug in my sustain pedal, you know, get out a half-decent sized keyboard and play with sounds. I do enjoy that tremendously in a very sort of ambient kind of way when I find something that allows you to bring sounds in like that. But I get far more satisfaction doing it on Modular. And it doesn't always work either. I mean, sometimes after half an hour, I'll walk away in disgust, thinking, what on earth am I doing? Or I get interrupted by family or disasters, that kind of thing. Queen comes round for tea. And you have to stop, you know, and move on. So yeah, good question, interesting question. And it's something which I think will develop. And I hope that I retain that joy of discovery and mystery and accidental falling into electronic music. There was a thread recently on Facebook about some guy saying how people keep asking him why he's not into Modular. And he says, well, why would I want a massively expensive mono synth? You know, I've got a whole load of synths. Why on earth would I want anything of that nature? And that, for me, completely misunderstands the nature of modular synthesis, because it's not just a monosynth. It's not a synthesizer. It's a collection of modules which allows you to craft sound. The same way as a violin and a bow is a collection of modules that allows you to craft sound, or a plectrum and a capo on a guitar, or a guitar pedal for that matter, the valves on a brass instrument. All of these things contribute to creating that sound with your embouchure, with, you know, the way that you express, with the velocity of the air passing between your lips, with the speed with which you play. All these things are reflected in Modular, which is weird because it's an electronic format and it shouldn't really have anything to do with us. You're just turning on a machine and giving it a few pointers, giving it a few pokes, but it's not that. It involves you completely, and a lot of that is in these fellas, is in these patch cables. You know, that is the thing, I think, and that's why, for me, software virtual modular doesn't really work as well, because it's in the I have no idea where this came from now. It's in the plugin of this in, because you put it in something and it doesn't work. Put it in something else and it does something accidental. You accidentally plug it in the wrong hole and it does something else. You don't do that in software, not really. But in hardware, you're feeling your way through something and you're trying to... I don't want to get too hippie about it. You know, I'm being led by the spirits in order to plug this in here. No, that's not what I mean either. But there's something in that tacticity. There's something in holding on to these things. And there's something enormously satisfying about plugging one thing to something else and that making a change that's good. And you just go, oh my word, that's fabulous. I mean, earlier I was faffing around trying to get two LFOs to blend together through this mixer, and I couldn't get it to sound right. And I was, you know, then end up doubting myself. Am I actually doing this right? Is this how you do it? Have I got this wrong? I need to patch it through a scope so I can see. Do I? Yeah. So what was I saying? So yeah, it doesn't always work, but then that's the nature of making music. I think music is a process of experimentation. It's a process of pushing against things to see what gives and what goes and what flows, man, and what doesn't. So that's a convoluted response to that question. So yeah, no, I have no idea what I'm doing when I start, and that's fascinating. Trying to think, the flip side of that is that it means I'd kind of never reach an end either. So one of the interesting things about when I did that how to write a track on Eurorack is to finish the track. You know, that was quite an extraordinary thing. And to get to the point, because I had a deadline, because this was for an album, I had to finish it. And that was great. Really, really liked that. And I haven't yet got my mental state to the point where I can fiddle around, record it, and release it. I haven't quite got there yet. I'm still fiddling around. I never feel that anything's quite good enough. Never feel that it's, you know, and then there's an additional faff of actually going to record something, you know. But I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it, trying to get better at these sorts of things, trying to find my way through it. And by the way, that track, that album, Modularism 2, is going to be out in December. Yeah, you can pre-order it now on the Law and Order Records website. And I'm on there. I'm a track somewhere in the middle amongst some very esteemed artists, which is nice. I can't remember what it sounds like now. I know that it was a mess. It was kind of crazy, but yeah, interesting. I must do more. Must do more. Must release music. Yes. Have I had a chance to play Have I had the chance to play with any of the new mutable instruments modules? No, not at all. I have the Veils. That's my only mutable module at the moment, because I got rid of the clouds. It just was not working for me. So no, I haven't. Have I purposefully stayed away? Yes, a little bit, because I feel I have enough modules in order to be able to learn how everything works. So I don't need to be making my system more complicated with a multi-macro oscillator like Platts or Marbles or whatever the other one was, random sampler. I mean, they all look really, really interesting, but they're big, man. They're big. How do they fit in my case? How am I going to do with that? I don't know. So I haven't. No, not yet. I will do. I mean, at some point, I imagine. I will break into another row and do other things. I mean, you know, if my if my bunch of Patreons ever gets beyond a couple of £100, then you know, who knows? Anything is possible. But at the moment, no, I haven't. But that's not because I don't like Mutable. I didn't like Clouds. It's out there. I've already stated that, and I'm not retracting it. But I'm interested to see what Clouds 2 is going to be like. Because, you know, for instance, Plaits compared to Braids, I mean, fantastic. It's such a phenomenally better laid out, better accessible module than Braids ever was. I mean, by golly, did they get that right? Did they sort that out? So I've got you know, high hopes for Clouds 2 and what that could bring to the party. Yeah, Turnkey was originally Soho Soundhouse. It was originally in Soho Square, and then it moved to Charing Cross Road, 114 to 116 Charing Cross Road, where it was for many, many years. Soho Soundhouse, upstairs, guitars, a Turnkey, everywhere else, I suppose. I worked there from 1996 to 2000 something, 2002, 5. Oh God, I don't remember. Anyway, I worked with them until Sound Control took over, pretty much. Yes, I am. I appreciate that I'm going toe to toe with DivKid this evening. I was just so busy and had my head in everything that I didn't really have a chance to check to see whether there's anything else going on. So so I didn't know that I was clashing with DivKid, and I put this together, and I only released the video yesterday announcing tonight, and I thought, I'll sod it. And I've spoken to DivKid anyway, and he's all right about it. You know, it's a quite a friendly rivalry. It's a lovely rivalry. I love it. I think he's a fabulous person, and he's like everyone's big brother on Modular. He's just super ace, I have to say. He's so, you know, I'd say he's cuddly, but I don't quite know him that well. But he's lovely. He's just so nice and out there and willing to engage and talk and chat. I mean, you know, he didn't have to reach out to me and say, oh, by the way, we're clashing tonight. I hope that's okay. And, you know, don't budge on my account, that kind of thing. Like, oh, nice. Thanks, mate. Had I realised, I would have done it some other time. But, you know, we're just going with it. Besides, he's talking about that filter. I can't remember the name of it. And I don't understand anything about that filter. I've had a few conversations with the guy who made that filter, the guy who's on their chat this evening, when I was writing news articles about it, and I could not understand a word. So, so it probably wouldn't have been my sort of thing tonight. Way above my head, I think, all of that. Anyway, I digress. So, where were we? Yeah, a lot of gear from Turnkey back in the day. I bought a lot of gear. In fact, I didn't buy as much gear from Turnkey as I should have done, considering I was working there. See, that's always the thing. It's always the thing. Can I connect my synths line outputs to the audio box USB high Z inputs without damaging it? Yeah, of course you can. Sound is simple. Electric sound is simple. The only thing you could ever damage really is speakers, because you can push cones out too hard and too far because they're physically moving magnet things in the thing with a thing. So yeah, don't worry about it. If you plug something into a high impedance input, you're not going to break anything. It just won't perhaps sound as nice as it will plugged into something which is ideal for it. There you go. Tip of the week, that one. Is modular sound analog or digital? Is the Moog Mother 32 digital sound or analog? Greetings from Chicago. Hey, Chicago. Hey, Chicago. Paul from Chicago asks about analog and digital stuff. It doesn't matter. That's one of the awesome things about this resurgence in modular synthesis, is that the analog and digital divide is really no longer there. There are still purists on one side or the other, but it's a mixture now. So a lot of modules that you find that give you an analog experience are actually digital. I mean, the noise engineering ones are a good example. The Basimilus here, it's a digital module, but all the knobs and switches and everything else, it gives you very much an analog experience. And it's the analog experience that I'm interested in. I don't really care what generates the sound behind the panel. It's more to do with how does it sound? Does it sound any good? And what are the controls like? That's what I'm interested in. So there's all sorts of mixtures of digital and analog stuffed in behind these front panels. And that's happening all the time. I mean, you can get some pure analog stuff. The Mother 32, as I understand it, is purely analog all the way through. What do I know? But that's my understanding of it. And it says here, analog synthesizer. So I'm just going to have to go with that. But personally, I would say it no longer matters. It's not really a discussion that interests me anymore. 10, 20 years ago, oh, did we used to argue about Nyquist's theorem and sampling and oversampling and software, hardware, all that kind of thing. I just can't be arsed with it anymore. It's become unimportant as far as I'm concerned, because you either like something, you either like the sound of something, or you don't. I mean, digital has enabled us to do extraordinary things that you never could ever do. I mean, the first bit of digital recording I did was I recorded a bit of guitar and in a piece of software, and I was able to copy and paste that guitar riff through a song, and I thought that was just the most amazing thing ever. Having spent 20 years of my life using 4-track tape, the revelation of the ability to copy and paste guitar, because my guitar playing is rubbish, so taking a little good bit, copy and pasting it, just phenomenal. It blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. So I'm completely convinced by the advantage of a digital audio workstation, that space, what you can do with that, and how it allows people like myself who aren't professional musicians or sound engineers to produce music to a much higher quality and higher level than we ever were before. Because we can't hire a band, we haven't got studio space, haven't got engineers sorting us out. Digital technology enables us to produce high quality music, and it brings down the barriers between the creative force, the talent, almost, don't like to use that word with myself, that creativity, it breaks down the barriers so you can put that creativity into a decent platform that sounds good, without having to spend 40 grand. It brings those barriers down. That's what digital does for me. What am I talking about? Okay, next. You could go the rest of your life without ever hearing a DX7 again. It's interesting, isn't it? Because FM is a huge thing in Modular. Everyone's talking about FM all the time, and it had me well confused because I assumed that they were talking about FM synthesis, which they sort of are to a degree. There's a lot of it about, but it's not something that I particularly like either. I mean, I got some great sounds on my DX100, absolutely. There was some fantastic stuff in there. But there are those electric pianos and stuff, no, long gone. And general FM noise that you get out of an oscillator, I don't really, maybe I need to spend some time with it. Maybe I need to do a video on FM and then I'll learn to appreciate it. But I prefer fat, beefy, analogy sounds, I suppose. Is MacBook and other iBooks dying around the music field after Windows invent more and more of their Surface Books? No, I don't believe so for a second. I think the MacBook will always be there. It's a phenomenal platform. It's a great piece of engineering. It's a great piece of software. It's a great operating system, and it's fully embraced by every music manufacturer out there. So unless Apple do something completely stupid, I mean, they're capable of doing that, absolutely, but they seem to get away with it more often. Now, I don't think the MacBook's going anywhere at all. It's slightly frustrating that Apple haven't embraced any touch technology, which is a crazy thing to say because they have in iOS, but because they haven't done so on the desktop, it means that largely all of the music manufacturers haven't really put too much effort into sorting out touch, which is one of the things that the Surface has going for it. But we always have to make ourselves aware of the realities. The reality is that neither Apple nor Microsoft build computers for musicians. They're not for us. Apple builds computers for hipsters, people who want to look cool, and Microsoft builds computers for hipsters with less money. For other people, for people who are doing wonderful spreadsheets, or they're doing podcasts, or perhaps they're designing architecture, they're doing CAD, or they're writing letters or blogging or surfing the internet or watching movies or watching Netflix. You know, it's a consumer world out there, and some people just like doing it on posh bits of gear. And what's extraordinary about computer music as a whole is how we've been able to harness it, because it's not designed for us. No one at Microsoft cares about latency, about how audio goes in and out of a system, how a processor maintains its focus on audio streams and streaming disk samples and creating sound generation. They don't care about those sorts of things. They want spreadsheets to open fast. They want Microsoft Edge to fly through web pages. They want movies to play without interruption. They want games and Fortnite to be played by everyone around the world all at the same time. That's where their interest lies, because the market is huge. For us, the market is tiny. We're not important. And so it's awesome that we're able to harness these tools to do what we do. But we can't expect what we do to dictate anything that Microsoft or Apple are interested in, because they're not. I mean, unless it's cool, things are momentarily cool. I mean, I was cool for Microsoft for a little bit. And I may be again with my Surface Go. Oh, yes, here we go. I'm going to see if I can get myself invited to a party. That's the plan. We'll see how that goes. But we tend to bring problems. We tend to bring criticisms. We tend to bring, disappointment in how things work. So they're not that interested in us, I don't think. So yeah, no, the Surface Books and the Surface range is not going to replace the MacBook. Although I've heard from plenty of people who have done the jump from one to the other. I think what's important is that the Surface Books and the Surface Pro are high quality computers. That's the key, really. So it is providing an alternative to the MacBook high quality computer. And that's good. That's really positive, because for far too long, Windows computers off the shelf have been pretty crappy, because they can be, and they can be cheap, and most people don't really need a whole lot out of them. So it's really good to have a premium range of computers available running Windows really, really well, which is what the Surface and stuff does. Okay, I'm probably very, very behind. Where are we? We've been at this an hour. Good Lord. And I'm only going to get slower as I drink more of that stuff. Yes, there is a Casio CZ101 phase distortion module. If you go to gearnews.com and stick in the search thing phase distortion, I think it'll come up. There is a module. I wrote about it relatively recently. Can't exactly remember when, 3-4 months ago. And yes, I haven't heard it or spent any time with it, but I did write an article about it. So yes, there is a Casio one. I really love the CZ101. Again, I used to play that down the local music shops. I mean, where I live in Norfolk, right? I used to go to Cook's Music in Norwich, which is still there, and Lynn Music in Kings Lynn, which I don't think is still there. And in Lynn Music, I could play with DX7s all day long because nobody else was. I just sat in their isolation room and just tinkle away. That was really great. And at Cook's Music, I used to be able to play with the Casio stuff that they had in there. Awesome. I really wanted the C5000 because it had the sequencer built in, and I felt that was really important, which it was. I had a little sequencer by Casio, which was a MIDI box all by itself. It only had 2 buttons, I think, record and play. That was it. I don't even know if it had a display. But you would play stuff in, and then it would play stuff back. It was that simple. That was it. That was it. I wonder what happened to that. Anyway. Any thoughts on the shape shifter? That's a complex oscillator, isn't it? From I don't have any thoughts on that. I haven't thought about that very much. Well, you're onto your second beer. I can't do that. I'd be all over the place. I'm such a lightweight at the moment when it comes to beer. But I'm finding, when you get to a certain age, beer just goes straight to your tummy. I mean, waist size wise. So I'm on and off beer often, but it also makes it really cheap. So I can buy a 4-pack of something like this, for instance, and it'll last me a couple of weeks, which is great. And I just have one, and I'm feeling well squiffy, which is nice. But you know, that's just me. I'm not saying that you should take care of yourself and not drink so much. You drink as much as you like, mate, as much as you like. What instrument did you start out playing before getting into Eurorack? I play anything, everything. My potted history of musical instruments is I was forced into it. No, I wanted to do piano lessons when I was a kid. Then I hated it. Then I was forced to do it. So I did that for a bit of piano lessons up to grade 3, I think, if I was lucky. Then I got into brass, of course. I played baritone and then euphonium in the school band when I was at high school. Did a bit of that. And around that sort of time, my dad bought a Technics keyboard, electronic Technics keyboard. And I suddenly rediscovered an interest in keyboard music. I mean, this is early 80s, so you know that matched up with my awakening into becoming a teenager and getting into music. Because before that, previous to that, I was listening to Vangelis, I was listening to Sky, I was listening to sound effects records, really nerdy stuff. And before I got into pop music, so that was my heavily influenced by keyboard based semi or quasi classical stuff. Then I got into brass, not because I liked brass, but because my older brother, who was kind of a bit of an idol, I think at the time, he was playing trombone in the school band, and I wanted to join in just so I could be cool like he was. I don't know, but it became a thing by itself, and I quite enjoyed it. It was a good, fun time because there's a big group of people messing about with these huge instruments. And we went to Germany and stuff on tour. It was exciting. Anyway, I digress. So, by my, I did flirt with guitar at times, but never quite got the hang of it. It used to hurt my fingers until my 18th birthday, where I got a guitar for my birthday, an electric guitar, and started playing that. And took that off with me as I left home to go and pursue all sorts of interesting things, and sort of taught myself guitar for the next 30 years. See, it's one of those things that when you say stuff like that, oh yeah, I've been playing guitar for 30 years, you'd kind of think you'd be quite good at it, wouldn't you? But no, I'm just still strumming the same old bits and pieces. Yeah, so mostly guitar, I suppose, but I've always played a bit of keyboard because that, although I hated the piano lessons when I was a kid, that has stood me in good stead. So much so, I really want to force my kids to play. I don't want to force them. I want them to discover it somehow. I don't know. That's a conundrum. I can't get around it. I don't want to force my children into doing things I don't want to do because I remember not enjoying it at all. But then it did sow seeds. So I don't know what the answers on a postcard, please. I mean, my theory on your kids and music is simply to make things available to them. You know, leave guitars lying about, have a piano knocking about, just allow them to use your stuff. I mean, I take my oldest, who's now 11, just going to high school, I take him with me to the synth meets, the synth fest. I actually took him to Super Booth last year, not the one past it, the one before that, which I think is an awesome thing to do. I have no idea what he really thinks, but I just want to expose him to that kind of place, that kind of space, that possibility in music. Because then all he wants to do is listen to now CDs of terrible pop music. What was the question? What instruments did I start out playing? Yes, so yeah, I play keyboards. I play a little bit of flute, play brass. I got a banjo. I like slapping on my Kayan. So yeah, anything I can lay my hands on, I'll happily play it. Ocarina, got one of those. Tambourine, yeah. Limbs, somebody says. I don't know what that means. Oh no, me chat has gone away. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, let me try to skip down a little bit. Ian says he's used Linux and Unix for decades. That's great. Good for you. There was our whole server system at Turnkey was based on Unix or something, and it had this strange guy who would sit upstairs in the loft, and you'd you know, you'd want something to be changed on the website or something, and he would bring up a whole load of command prompts and go, and all these Sun server machines would go click, 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 and it would be done. Just mystical, mysterious, absolutely mysterious. But yeah, no, go for it. Go for it. Da, da, da. Does anyone struggle with oscillator tuning? No, no, I don't. This is interesting. It's slightly interesting because it's something that people talk about. I think the important thing with oscillator tuning is really, honestly and truly, I don't mean this in anything other than with barrelfuls of love, is that you just have to get over it. Because it's not the issue you think it is. Oh, it probably is. It probably is in your situation, but in most situations, I would say, you put a couple of things together and you make slight adjustments just so it sounds right. You don't have to worry about the tuning. You don't have to tune it. You just play with it, and if one of them's out, just move it a little bit. Move the pitch a little bit. Now, of course, if you are playing with your Eurorack, alongside a band, alongside other musicians, or sticking it into a door that you need things to be accurate with, well then sure, tune it. But otherwise, no, just go with it. I mean, you know, I've heard people argue about how awful Eurorack is because you can't get 8 octaves of accurate tracking. So 8 octaves, who is playing a synth line that covers 8 octaves? Really, honestly? So you're there with an 88 keyed weighted keyboard or something. You're starting right at the bottom and you're ending up at the top. Really? I mean, come on. I mean, realistically, anyone writing music with any particular oscillator is going to go up, what, 3 octaves, 4 octaves maximum, maybe, I would say. And all oscillators track well 4 to 5 octaves. Well, yeah, without any trouble at all. You might find weirdness at the top end, weirdness at the bottom end, but that's analog technology. That's what it is. That's how it is. And this is all stuff that's been thrown together and not, you know, mass produced under laboratory conditions necessarily. So no, I don't think, I think some people, again, you know, with love, some people have trouble with tuning, but I think that you just need to soften your attitude to it. You need to see it as not a problem. As long as the system is more or less in tune with itself, and again, more or less, the same as if you tune guitar strings by ear, they're only in tune more or less, and it sounds great. And if it's something which is a real problem to you, then I would suggest that proper synthesizers is probably the way to go, because they're going to have sorted all that stuff out internally. So there you go, give it up. That's what I'm saying. Either get over it or give it up. Da, da, da. Erica Synth's drum sequencer. Yeah, well, the buttons, it feels like a mechanical keyboard. Is that good or bad? I do not know. But yeah, I'd like to try one out properly. I haven't done anything other than poke at it at Super Booth. Yeah. The new AE modular system. What's that? That rings a bell. Can't think. Okay, never mind. Moving on. See, the interesting thing is that I'm reading responses to things that I said 20 minutes ago. Oh dear, I've got to go. Am I going to make an album? Somebody says. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got a couple of things that, you know, why not? Let's throw this in musically at the moment. I have a whole load. I've got like 3 or 4 albums out on Spotify and iTunes, all those usual places under Molten Meditation. It's all very spiritual and focused on an ambient spiritual journey of meditation. It's awesome, man. It's just that kind of thing. That's what I was doing. The last album of them is completely instrumental, so there's no funny words or anything going on, which you might well enjoy. It's called Without Words, funnily enough, because all my other stuff before that had you know, poetry and scripture read through it. What can I say? The interesting thing about it is that it was the last. That album was made purely in the box, in the door. It was just before I'd rediscovered hardware. or modular synthesis in any kind of form. And it's all software driven, and it's pretty beautiful, I think. There's a bit of guitar in there as well. There is some voice, but it's instrumental voices. It's a lovely. I'm very, very proud of that, and it draws all sorts of, as well as original music for that album. It draws songs from other things that I did. I'm just purely taking the sonic soundscape rather than the entire track, because all of my tracks previously were kind of like 15 minutes long, whereas this is more like 4 or 5 minutes, little snapshots of stuff, and it's great. It's called Without Words. Oh yes. I have another album's worth of music which I've been using live in a situation called Soul Circus, which is where I joined together with a couple of other creative people, and we put together these extraordinary, interesting services that we ran at the Norwich Cathedral for a number of years. And I was producing a lot of music for that. A lot of stuff that I never quite finished, just things which were backdrops for videos or things that were going on while other things were going on, as well as a couple of songs. And so I'm trying to put that together into an album to sort of draw a line under it and say, this is that body of work that I have now finished. I'm now moving on. And again, all of that was software driven. I just started introducing hardware sort of in the last 1 or 2 services that we did there. It's now moved on, and we're still going, but it's something slightly different now. But I want to finish that off, and I almost have all the tracks together. I just need to master them. There's one bit of vocals I need to do because I can't find the original vocal, and it really needs a little bit of auto tune, I would say. So I can't release that in its current state, and I can't find the original project files. I'm gonna have to do it again, or just drop it. Not sure yet. Anyway, so once I've done that, what I want to do is stick Without Words and the Soul Circus stuff onto Bandcamp, stick it up there. Rather than go, because at the moment I've been going through TuneCore into iTunes and Spotify, which seemed like a really good idea 5 years ago. Not so sure anymore, because it doesn't make any money, and I would rather, it feels fabulous to be searchable and discoverable on iTunes. That seems like just the most awesome thing ever. Makes you feel like a proper recording artist. It's all nonsense, of course, but it feels nice, and it felt nice. It doesn't feel so nice anymore. So I think I might do that differently. So what am I saying? So once I've finished that and got that out there, then I'm going to start making more of an effort into producing new music using this and other things. I'm not sure what that will be yet, because I'm really fascinated by the synth pop idea, in that I might just write some pop music, maybe sing. I have a friend, Hannah, who sings, and she's extraordinary, and so I'd like to use her, but at the same time, I kind of want to express myself. I don't quite know how that works, being an old fart now. How do you stand there and sing about stuff with a straight face? How do people do that? I don't know. I feel like we've seen behind the curtain and it's all just nonsense. How do you do that? I don't know. Anyway, so that's going to be interesting. So I do have a bunch of songs in me, I think, somewhere that I'd like to put down and somehow get out there in an interesting way. And also I want to start putting together music that I can perform easily at synthesizer meets or open mics, or to do live. And that requires a little bit more of understanding and learning my instrument, I think. I can wing it anytime, but I want to do more than wing it. Yeah. Cool. Right. Skip on down. Have I used a loop pedal? No, I haven't. I do have the sample slicer in my box of DIY projects, which should perhaps potentially bring in a little bit of looping to my system, but not layered on layered looping. No, I used to do that back when I had an old sampling Yamaha guitar pedal many years ago. But no, I haven't done that. Do I want to do that? I don't know yet. I haven't introduced sampling into my Eurorack as yet, until this sample slicer comes along. So I don't have a Morphogenie or anything like that. So I don't know yet. That's an avenue I have not yet explored. See, I say I'll skip down, but I don't want to... Yeah, but Johnny, you're listening to jazz. That's not nerdy. That's kind of cool, isn't it? I mean, I did get into blues quite early. I got very much into Robert Johnson, and there you go. I've lost all that memory of that now. That kind of thing. But no, I think Vangelis is far, is far nerdier than John Coltrane. Da, da, da. Yeah, teach your kid to listen to stuff. Well, I mean, thankfully, they all know all the words to the sort of electric 80s CD compilations that I've got. You know, they love singing along to Karma Chameleon and Video Killed the Radio Star, stuff like that. So I try to do that, but Beatles, I've never been into the Beatles myself, so I'm not going to show them that either. I mean, let's go through your little list here. Pink Floyd, nah. Had no time for Pink Floyd. Beatles, nah. Led Zeppelin, yes. Queen, sometimes. Stevie Wonder, he just called to say he loved me. And that was, I mean, that was my Stevie Wonder, and that was just awful, really. So, yeah, I've met Stevie Wonder. David Bowie, yes, in places. Depeche Mode, yes, again in places. Vangelis, yes. You know, my favourite Vangelis track was, I think it's called The Long March from the China album. That's what I really like. Da, ba, da, 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 da. Circle of Fifths, yeah, what? Um, did I have anything to do with the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield? Yes. Yes, I did. 9 o'clock service in Sheffield was an awesome outbreaking of crazy alternative worship, which was just amazing. Now, my only association with it was that I went to the services when they did it at Greenbelt, when they did it in the Marquee in Greenbelt, the first time they were there, I think it was. And it was just the most awesome thing I'd ever experienced. I mean, this was, Christ, when was it? See, that's very good, isn't it? Late 80s, I suppose. It was really on the cusp of dance music and that kind of environment. And it did it in such an awesomely spiritual way and a visual way. They were using... Oh, there goes my microphone. Sorry about that. Ouch. Oh, no, sorry. Ah. So done that. Oh, look, my microphone has split. Oh, no. That's another expense. So that's great. Okay, that's going to have to go there. See, that was the that was the Holy Spirit getting in the way, telling me not to talk about such things. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, 9 o'clock service. Yeah, Greenbelt, awesome it was. They were using projectors, but obviously not data projectors. They were using proper cinefilm projectors of all sorts of video loops, and the music was just awesome. It was just an amazing, amazing time. And then the guy in charge, you know, shagged all the women and abused all the people under his care, which is a shame, a real shame. I mean, he created this awesome situation where he is the spiritual leader of a group of extraordinary creative people, and you know, and gothy type people and goth women, you know, and all these people were surrounding him as this awesome person who's bringing a lot of change and excitement to the church, and it was genuinely exciting, you know, an awesome thing. And I've seen interviews of people like the guy from Pulp uh, talking about how all the creativity in Sheffield at that time was being sucked into this church, and how it was weird and but interesting, you know. Um, but eventually, I mean, I saw them again a couple of years later at Greenbelt, and they were not the same. They were not the same. They had morphed into something weird, something that had they became, you know, in essence, at the beginning they were extraordinary and doing something completely different and faceless. They had no center. They were just doing the stuff and trying to give it all up, you know. Whereas later on they became about themselves, and that's where it all went horribly wrong. But fascinating, absolutely fascinating, that whole thing. I mean, if you've been involved in alternative worship as I have, it's a, you know, it's this extraordinary starting point that then just imploded on itself in the worst possible way. And we've had to try to recover from that ever since. And we have recovered from it, but it's always a thing. And it fascinates me, absolutely fascinates me. But, you know, I'm fascinated by all sorts of things. And I'm always happy to talk about it. I always get in touch and I'll chat about any of those sorts of things because it's fascinating. I'm a very fascinated person. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, I probably missed out lots of burning questions because I've been talking a lot. Am I sorry? No, that's the point, isn't it? Oh yeah, there, I remember. That's the point. But you can talk amongst yourselves, that's all right. Da, 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 ba, da, bit of this, bit of that. Would you consider ever doing an entire video about how to release music? I don't know how to release music. So if I did, then yes, I would. But I'm as clueless as anybody else. I find the whole thing mystical. And you know, I mean, occasionally I get asked to do tutorials on things. You know, how do you make an acid bass line, for instance, or how do you master records, or how do you do this, that, and the other? And actually, I don't know. How do you do these things? How do you get a decent vocal performance? I have no idea. Stick a microphone in front of something and sing. You know, I'm very much a hands-on, just get it done type of person, as opposed to someone who knows how it works. Because I mean, I can release records. I say release because that means they're available for somebody else to listen to. That's a release as far as I'm concerned. When I hear about people trying to release an album, or they release an EP, I mean, what's the point of releasing an EP if it's not actually a physical thing? So I can understand releasing a 12-inch 45 as an EP. That makes sense. But you know, if it's electronic, then what the heck is an EP? I don't know. Doesn't make sense. But so yeah, no, I've no idea. I mean, I will be releasing things on Bandcamp or potentially through TuneCore again, through Spotify and that kind of thing. Or I'll just do it myself. You know, I print my own. I can print CDs. I still do that. Print CDs and print covers and stick them in envelopes and jiffy bags and send them out to people. It does happen. It does happen. So yeah, no, I'm not the person to ask about that sort of thing, I'm afraid. It's still completely mysterious. I would still sign a contract. Somebody says, yeah, I have a recording contract. I would absolutely sign that because that's one of the things I've always been after, even though I have no idea what that is like or what that will do or how that will help me, if it will help me at all. There's a bit of a conversation here going on about singing, which is interesting. I can sing sometimes. I can. Yeah, it does happen sometimes. Yeah, no, it does. It does. Steely Dan. Why do I find that funny? I can't remember. All right, I seem to have gotten to the bottom of the comments. Does that mean you've all gone home and I'm just here talking to myself? Yeah, maybe. See, that's a weird thing. Am I sitting here talking to myself? Oh my God. That's really strange. That certainly feels peculiar. No, there's still people there saying things. Okay. So where are we now? We're at 9:30. Still here. Good. Right. Thank you. Sorry. I got a bit weirded out there for a moment. Let me just bring the chat back out to that window. I was just checking. Pop out chat. There we go. Yeah, just listening to the ramble. Okay, good. Right. So it's 9:30. I mean, I sometimes let these run for a couple of hours, or I have done so far, so I can continue to do that. So what I will do is I will bring out my bags of DIY just to show you what it is the modules that I'm going to be making over the next couple of months, I suppose, because I still don't know exactly how long these things are going to take. Right, let's have a look-see then. So, first one I've got here is the Bafako Chopping Kinky. Now, I remember this coming out. Trying to recall exactly what it does. I'm not sure. But it has an awful lot of resistors in the bag, so that's good. And a lot of these sockets. Because I bought the Bafako... Yeah, I bought the Bafako Even VCO. I decided that was going to be my first oscillator project. Because I wanted to build an oscillator first. I wanted to start with that. Because it seemed as though it would be really clever to have something that made a noise. That seemed like a good starting point. So I went through a whole load of trying to work up towards which kits to get. I even asked the community, and I had lots and lots of suggestions and ideas thrown at me. But it just seemed to make the most sense to me was the Bafako one. Trying to find it now. Here we go. The Even VCO. Not very impressive, these bags, I have to say. So I ordered the Bafako VCO from Bafako because I couldn't find anybody who had it in stock around these parts. So I ordered it from Spain, I think it is. And I'm going to give that a go. But Bafako got in touch when they were just processing my order and said, "Oh yeah, you're the bloke who does the thing." With the thing, they said, "Oh, that's quite interesting. Would you mind ever so much doing a video on a couple of other modules if we sent them out to you?" And I went, "Well, of course. Of course, I'm a sucker for free stuff. I mean, glory." So they sent me the... ooh, what's that? Oh, yeah, the... I don't... They sent me the... What am I talking? The Chopping Kinky. They sent me that. And they sent me this one, which is called Sampling. Oh, God, what's it called? Let me get the instructions out. I am obviously losing my mind. Oh. I do buy a lot of Nurlies though, so you know, this is payback really. The sampling modulator. See, I have no idea what that does either, so that's quite exciting. I've got a couple of things to build, which I don't really know what they're about. But yeah, definitely. And I haven't had a look at any of the instructions or open them up anything, because I just haven't had the time. There's a whole load of stuff in here, an assembly guide. This is nothing like the Turing machine one. It's the kind of thing that says, "Oh, solder everything on the board. Number 2, plug it in." Interesting. So yeah, I'm going to agonize over all those sorts of things very soon. But I will start with the Even VCO. Try to get some sound out. Try to get a feel for these Bafako kits. And go from there. I can't get that back in. Go on, get in there, otherwise I'll lose you and then I won't know what I'm doing. Stuff that in there so hard, that's broken stuff. So those are the 3 Bafako modules. Looking forward to building those. I've got here, oh, this isn't a Bafako, this isn't a module of any kind at all. This is the first thing you need when working with the Surface Go. And that's a USB-C hub. Because I don't have anything that's USB-C, and the Surface Go has USB-C, which is what everybody wants. Everybody wants USB-C, but of course we don't have any gear that works with it. So that's that for that. I must put that up there so I know where that is. And get rid of that box. I'm not going to need that. Oh yeah, feet. I always like feet. Then in here I've got the sample slicer. This is from Ginkgo's Synths. They've already had a sample slicer out there. This is version 2 that I did on Kickstarter. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, it's a basic, sort of classic sampler, I suppose, like an Akai sampler, where you just sample stuff in and you play it back. Slice it up and play it back. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. It's not like the Morphogenie where you're going to try and sew some kind of modulating reel into it or any kind of craziness. You just sample stuff in and play stuff out. Ooh, a bunch of LEDs. While making it make noises. So yeah, that's nice. That's a proper looking module, that one, with proper looking boards. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Note the surface mount has already been done, so I'm not having to worry about that. Thank goodness. But yeah, looking forward to that. DivKid's already done some videos on it. But of course he didn't build his own. Oh no, so mine will have a distinct character of being built by me. No, it won't. Of course it won't. I'll be lucky if it works. Lots of chips and stuff. How did he get it all in the box? I mean, I would sort of recommend he uses slightly larger boxes. Maybe that's why it took so long. Get that in there. That in there. Squeeze it in. Bit of one of those. That's probably important. Shock horror. Good, that's done. That one. Okay, what else have I got? Here I've got, this is from Thonk. Oh, this is the graphic EQ. Yeah, I got in touch with Thonk, you know, just reaching out to see, would you like to perhaps sponsor my DIY endeavours? And they said, no, not really, but we'll send you this. This is the graphic EQ. It's another music thing one. And they said it would be great if you could do a similar video like I did on the Turing, because I really liked the Turing video that I did. And so they sent me this, which is awesome. I mean, that's just fabulous. I'll give that a go. I'll give that a go. I'm not immediately in need of an EQ. That's not the sort of thing that makes me go, yeah, but it's interesting. And it looks really nice. I've got the front panel over there in my really dodgy DIY case. There's that one. And then this one, I bought this a little while ago. This is a low pass gate called the Aperture. Yeah, it's just a little one there. I'm fascinated by low pass gates because the Vactrol thing and the whole creating that kind of sort of plucked organic sound, I think is quite interesting. It's a different approach. It's the sort of thing that Make Noise tend to do really well in their bits and pieces, and I like that sound. And I don't currently have anything like it in my rack, so I thought it'd be an interesting additional module. So I picked that up about 6 months ago. I haven't got around to it yet. So that is in the list. So I'll start off with the VCO, go with that. Then maybe try the sample slicer because that's the most interesting, perhaps. Then maybe do the kinky thing. I don't know. Then maybe the low pass gate. Then the EQ. Then something else. I don't know. Lots to get on with. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking that I'll be able to just pull it together in an evening, but I don't imagine I will. It's probably going to take days, and I've made the decision to sort of do it over there, to set up a soldering station over there, rather than doing it here as I did with my Turing, because I think these things are going to knock around for a little while as I chip away at them, sort of an hour, an evening, every now and again, that kind of thing. So that is the DIY plan. I'll be starting off with that Bafako one. I really want to try it this week. The only problem is I've still got the kids this week. They don't go back to school till Thursday. And my wife, as she's a teacher, she's actually at school all week with insets and stuff like that. So I'm just not sure I'm actually going to have the time. Besides, the Avengers Infinity War will be turning up on my doorstep tomorrow on the Blu-ray disc. I like discs. It really annoys me that you're allowed to stream and download that much sooner than you could get the physical thing. I like the physical thing. And that's turning up. So I'm going to have to watch that. Probably 3 times. Okay, so what I'm just saying is that I probably won't have the time to do that. And I've also got the Surface Go. See, they're going to be competing with each other. Shall I show you the Surface Go very quick? Because it is sitting here. I mean, it's difficult to get an idea of the size, I suppose, in TV land. But it is really very, very cute. Oh, there goes a light. That's probably a sign that I should pack it up and go home. But I'm still talking here, so I'm just going to stick another battery in this light over here. Talk amongst yourselves. Ooh. Yeah, so but it is very cute. It's like the size of a netbook I used to have. In fact, I'm going to drag that out for comparisons when I do a video on it. So yeah, interesting. Little keyboard, that's all right. Massive trackpad, that's pretty good. Huge bezel around the outside, which is, I don't know, unexpected. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so, the screen to be so small within the tablet itself. But it's like, like an iPad. It's the same deal. You need to have somewhere to put your thumbs if you're holding it as a tablet. So yeah, there you go. That kind of thing. Kind of thing. Bring up something white so you can see it better. That sort of size. Yeah. Now, I haven't looked at it at all yet. I've sort of avoided it because I don't want to. It's important to me that I demonstrate the user experience. So often, I find people like install stuff first and get through all the problems first and then move on and then already know how to do everything before they make the video about it. And that means that they've already forgotten the troubles that they had or the difficulties in getting over those first steps. And I want to make sure they get over those first steps. Because I know that at least I think, I can't install anything on here that's not in the Windows Store because it's running Windows 10S, which is a special streamlined operating system version of Windows 10 that only runs Windows Store apps. A bit like iOS, only runs App Store apps. Yeah? Same idea. And the concept is that it means it will be very fast, it will run brilliantly, because it will only run the stuff it's supposed to run. And you can't run your farty old bits of software that, or 30-year-old plugins that you're trying to get on there are just not going to work because it won't let you install them. But that, of course, brings challenges in that what software then can you run? Well, FL Studio Mobile has been cited a couple of times, as has Stage Light. That is kind of more or less it as far as doors go on Windows 10, because the support with the Windows 10 Store is very, very poor. Very poor. So, but I want to make a video on that so that people who are using the Windows 10, who are using the Surface Go straight out of the box, can see what's available to them. The other question I want to answer is, can I install an audio interface? I do not know under Windows 10S. I don't know whether it'll let me run an installer or not. Those are the sort of things I will find out. So I don't know yet. Hopefully we will know soon. Let me turn that off. I'm not going to dwell on this yet. I want to get onto this week. Again, the kids. Oh, maybe it'll be another week, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So, what is a low pass gate? I don't know. Low pass gate is, it uses, the important thing is it uses a Vactrol. A Vactrol is, I'm probably not going to get this right. I'm just doing it off the top of my head, but it's based on light. So it's a switch that is light based. So a switch goes off, I think, and that closes the gate. So if you imagine if something is being turned on and off by a light, by a bulb, there's a certain amount of time it takes for that bulb to light and to unlight. Does that make sense? It's not an instant. It's not like a binary switch. It's an on and it's off. It's an on, off. And that open and closes the gate. And so it gives a kind of a character to the sound that's going through, like an envelope. Like an envelope VCA, it's that kind of thing. And so it shapes the sound and gives it a very plucked or struck sort of feel. So there is this attack to it. I think that's more or less a bit like kind of how it is. But once I've built the module and had a look, I'll know a lot more about it. So yeah, but that essentially is a low pass gate. I'm thinking now, what does low pass mean? So maybe it closes the gate from high frequencies. No, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Somebody will know. Somebody in the comments will know. They'll write it underneath and they'll know what they're talking about. Sampling modulator. Yes, okay. Very dense layout on the Bafako stuff. Okay, that's interesting. Gate, filter, la di da. Have I messed with Ableton on the go at all? No, I haven't done anything. Nothing at all. I have not touched it. I've purely put in my login details, and it's sucked in my desktop image from my other Surface. That's as far as I've got. But I will do. I will do. You just need to have patience. I can't do it all at once. Can't do it all at once. Got to start somewhere and go through a process. I can't have all the answers all at once. And in fact, with the Surface Go, I plan to because with previously I've kind of done it all in one video. This is how it is, and that's okay. But that's a heck of a lot of work. But I want to put that same amount of work into the Surface Go, but I might split it into more videos. So I might do one piece of software or two pieces of software or something. But then at the same time, you've got to be able to pronounce whether it's capable of doing anything. Yeah, tricky. See, tricky. But I'll get to it. I will get to it. So why did Avengers need anyone else besides Thor? Isn't Thor a god? Well, he's a god of thunder. Or is he the god of biscuits? I don't know. I don't know. They are what they are, I think. I think perhaps what the problem is here is your preconception of what a god is. I think that's the difficulty here. Is it just me, or is my nose really, really red on this video? I don't know if anybody noticed, but in the Molten Music Monthly, my beard seemed to be askew, like it was all on one side. It was really weird. I think it was just the light, but it just looks like I've got beard growing out the wrong side of my face. I don't know. Can't worry about these sorts of things. Where's my makeup person? A light sensor. There you go. Somebody knows what they're talking about. So will Fruity Mobile run VSTs? No, it will not. It only runs what it is. It is an app in of itself. Now, last year with Windows 10, they did introduce MIDI support within Windows Store apps, so you can actually get a keyboard in there and play stuff. And also there is a low latency potential with the onboard sound. And I know that FL Studio or ImageLine has implemented that option. So it should work with the onboard sound with Windows drivers relatively well, we think. But no, VSTs and stuff, no, that's not going to work. Photo-resistive opto-isolators. Yes, that's the kind of thing. That's the sort of thing that I should have said. Yes, I appreciate that. Have I even started building it yet? No, no, it's in the bag over there. Didn't you see the bag? It's all in there. I haven't started it. No. I will. I mean, because I'm attempting to make a video on it, I have to. It's not as simple as that. Now, I know the synth DIY guy. He does a brilliant job. He just builds the whole thing with a time-lapse camera going on, and then he does a lovely narration over the top. Fabulous. That's not my style, man. My style is, is to be in the moment. So I need the camera set up there, I need the camera set up here, and I'll open it up in front of the camera, and I will start getting stuck in and see how far I can go. And then I'll be taking hours and hours of video over to my main computer in order to edit it down to 5 minutes of me building something. So yeah, so there you go. So no, I haven't started it yet. I'll endeavour to do so this week, if not next week. So it's nearly upon us. Nearly upon us. Stagelight, yes, does support VSTs. I don't know whether the Windows 10 Store version does. I'm not quite sure how that works, because Stagelight is also a desktop Win32 program. So I will try that out. And Stagelight, am I allowed to say Stagelight 4 is around the corner? I'm probably not allowed to say that. But yeah, that's going to be something interesting I'm going to be hopefully trying out soon that I'm probably not allowed to talk about. But I have a lot of time for Stagelight. I think it's a great piece of software. It's got a lot of great features in it. It's not perfect or deep, and their reliance on loops and stuff and that whole sort of inbuilt shop thing I find very uninteresting. But for a touchy-feely door on a surface. It's great. It's really very good. I like it. Like it a lot. So I think probably we're going to sort of wind this down to a close now. I can't think of anything else burning that I want to talk about. I think there's anything worth mentioning from the Molten Monthly. No, not that springs to mind. I think I said everything that needed to be said. I don't think there's anything much coming up for discussion in all of that. More about where we're going to from now. So that's cool. Sorry that I had to squeeze it out right at the end of the month. I'll try to do better with September. I should have a bit more breathing space. Synthfest in October, early in October in Sheffield. I would heartily recommend going along to that. It's good fun. It's only a day or an afternoon. It's just a hall filled with synths and people with their modulars, and there's also seminars. I've never actually made it to any of the seminars as yet. The first year they did a seminar in the main hall, which was my first experience of hearing about Eurorack properly, and it was confusing as hell. I mean, DivKid ran it, and it had proper posh people talking about proper posh stuff, and I'm sure they were talking sense, but it didn't make any sense to me. Crikey. Talking about power supplies and ampage and volts and stuff and electronics like I had any clue. And I've been playing with synthesizers my entire life, and yet I had no clue as to what they were talking about. But it was also the time that I was overwhelmed and boggled by all of this modular stuff. It was just amazing, and I felt this is something that I have to get involved in that time. I mean, yeah, always interested in synthesizers, yes, but I hadn't owned a hardware synthesizer other than the Base Station 2 for a long, long time. And I was just moving back into hardware, moving back into things like the circuit, Novation circuit, things like that, machine. Those sorts of hardware things are creeping in, and it was really that Synthfest that pushed me into considering another path, considering the path of the start off with a Mother 32 or the Erebus or something which is going to start using CV, something that's going to start patching together other things and creating this modular synth. It just seemed something that was so far out of reach, and yet, oh wow, this is interesting. So yeah, it was around that sort of time that I made the decision that this is something that I really want to engage with. So so yeah, Synthfest, it's good. You know, it's not everybody's there, but a whole bunch of people are there, and you get a chance to play on some synths, and more importantly, you get a chance to talk to some of the people behind some of the modular, and that's very interesting. So I'll be there, and as I say, I'm quite happy to talk to people. I'm not particularly scary, but I'm also not what's the word? I'm not particularly gregarious either. So I'm quite, you know, in reality, in public, I can be quite shy, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to talk to somebody. It just means that I'm not necessarily going to burst into song when you say hello. I'll probably be embarrassed and feel awkward, but I'll happily shake your hand and say hi and chat about anything you want to chat about. I'll give it a go because I'm up for that. And my kid will probably be with me as well. He'll be bored out of his mind, I imagine. But never mind. He'll probably have his phone to play on. So yeah, Synthfest, that's in October. So we'll probably talk about it again at the next live stream, which will be in about a month's time, just before then. So it'll be another reminder. But then we'll see. Then we'll see. So I think I must get some tickets. Yes, that's another good point. Okay. So yeah, Knobcon, that's a really good name for something, funnily enough. I mean, in the horrificness of misogynistic modular synthesis, Knobcon actually works. How funny is that? I don't know. It's just a thing. It just does. It's a great name for something. I have no problem with that at all. So I'm just going to play a bit more music. I'm going to play us out with a bit more fiddling, I think. See if I can make another sound come out. And thank you so much for joining in with this. It's been great. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. It's always a bit of a mystery. beforehand I'm thinking, what am I going to say? 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 And then I just start talking and it goes off, and I don't know why that is. It's a bit mysterious. So thank you for your support in that, and the questions and the comments and bits and pieces. That's fantastic. I'm able to somehow go on with those, and that just seems to work and it pulls together. So it's an amazingly enjoyable thing for me to sit here and talk about this stuff, and it's a delight to have you here and supporting me. And perhaps you can notice that when I thought you'd all gone, in how weird it all became. That was really strange. Anyway, so thank you. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new, and share it about. It's always helpful. It's a bit of an uphill battle sometimes getting your stuff out there, and this is such a niche area that there's never going to be a whole load of us. But it would be nice one day to get to 20,000 subscribers. That would be really cool. Which I'm on 18,000 now, something, which is amazing. It's just amazing, and that would be great to get through that next barrier. Also on Patreon, always appreciated people throwing me a couple of dollars. That's all it is. You can just sign up for $1 a month, for instance, $12 a year. That's like a couple of cups of coffee, or see it as a magazine subscription, and that really helps me focus where I need to focus. Because otherwise I'm scrapping around trying to make ends meet, and that's hard, and that's not conducive towards making videos or trying to spend time on something which I think will be helpful to people out there when I need to be writing articles, building computers, and that kind of thing. So Patreon really helps with that, and I mean, I envisage in the future it may be the only source of income, which would be amazing if I could do this full time. I don't know how possible that is. Seems really unlikely, but you never know, because my needs are small, I suppose. Anyway, blah 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 blah. So do go and check out Patreon, because that's a fabulous bunch of people who are really unbelievably helpful to what I'm trying to do. And that's that. Good. Right, I'll leave it there then. I'll stop sort of looking for questions, and if I haven't answered your question this evening, I'm very sorry. Please mail it in. Comment it in or something, and I will have a look at it and get back to you. Anything else? No, I think that's it. That'll do. Okay, cool. I will I'll go turn this up again and have some more creative juice. And just go for another 5 minutes. That's very cool. what I said about tuning earlier. I think that'll do. On that note, go make some tunes.